I'm going to try to take my time with this video, but I need you guys to understand how leftists operate definitely in American culture. Not saying that is exclusive to American culture, but you have to understand how they operate in order to understand how to combat a lot of their nonsense. But much of what they do is centered around needing a dragon to slay so they can present themselves as heroes, caring. It's like they bask in their own like egos. But that's the general approach. So when you may be on the internet or Twitter or Instagram or something, and you're like, man, the way they present the world is as if around every corner, whatever the corporate of the week is, be it white racist, well, let them tell it only white people can be racist, complete nonsense, but let them tell it that's the case. Misogyny, homophobia, all of these types of things, which of course exist in some context, that there are people that may be racist. But the reason why they approach it in the way that they approach it is because they can not only guilt trip you into giving them power, but the main thing is that they present themselves as heroes. And when they do that, it presents themselves as heroes. So this is why quite often the demand for racism to be existence, like more like blunt forms of racism, not, oh, I think this kind of way about you, more of, okay, I think this kind of way about you, so I'm going to do something bad to you type of racism. They need to pretend as if that is just around every single corner. And the demand has to always be there. And we know, if you look at the internet, you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, you're on whatever website, looks like it's hell on earth when it comes to those particular ideas. But in the real world, you know that that's not generally the case. Again, does racism exist? Of course it does. Is it bad? Of course it is. But they go around trying to present themselves as heroes, and they need the dragon to slay. And that's why they deviate from, and they have to kind of find these sort of mental gymnastics and jump through these different hoops to present you as a racist, a white supremacist. This is why terms like sympathizer exist, adjacent, those types of stupid terms, when they can't directly pin you as a white supremacist or something stupid like that, but they want to. So they use those sort of terms to say that you are one, or you sympathize with one, you're adjacent to one, because they can't prove that you are. But if they didn't have the dragon to slay, none of their narratives for the most part will work. You can look at the COVID thing. It's the same way, where, again, these guys are basking in their own egos. They need to present themselves as heroes. So they dramatize the, let's say, fatality rate of COVID, which should be a positive thing if you look at it in the terms that this, most people, the vast majority of people, really regardless of any age group, but most age groups certainly, that get it they're going to be good. Right? Maybe you get sick. Some will get hospitalized. Most won't. And that should be good. But they need to preach doom and gloom. Of course, they can get power by acting as if the world is something that it is not. And until people decide to knock that crap down where it stands, they'll continue to adopt those sorts of ideas. But the white supremacist thing is one of the more bizarre ones, because I'm a brother, you know that, and I'm a guy that I've lived in the South my entire life, and I'm not going to say I haven't experienced racism. I would for sure have. I certainly experienced more racism though from leftists generally, because of course I'm supposed to think some kind of way and have some sort of social political approach deemed, by my way of race, and if I don't have it, then that's when all of the appeals to my race start to come out, and they will call you very negative things. Anybody that's black and not a leftist and vocal about anything, you can attest to that. But no, they got to act like it's around the corner of every, I can't walk down the street without experiencing some sort of white supremacy. So they have to pin it on other things, right? They have to pin it on other things. They have to say it exists here. It has to exist there. And every single man and woman is going to experience it, and they're going to have their lives derailed over it. Will that happen to some people? Yes. Does it happen to most people? No. It's just what it is. If it was, man, the world would really be on fire for sure. But it's not. I have several videos talking about why I don't personally obsess over racism, but that's not even the point of the video. It's that these guys are going through great lengths. None of the denouncing works anyway, right? Yeah, Trump's dealing with that, right? Well, you could say all you want, okay, this is bad, but they don't care, right? You can say that white supremacy is bad. Who doesn't think it's bad aside from white supremacists? Maybe not. Some people obsess over it way more than others, but that's the point. And that they have to present it as if it's something that it's not, because their entire narrative, clings to that. And they have to present themselves as true heroes. Though they're not. Of course they're not. They're not. But they need those dragons to slay. They need something to, be perpetually, let's say, offended at. And then when all else fails, and definitely if you are winning in any shape, form, or fashion, and you're opposite of them in terms of their politics, well, they will deem you as what even the people that they disagree with would deem as a bad thing. And no amount of denouncing is going to change that, because, like I said, everything rests on it. And it's a crappy way to live, I would argue, when you act as if it's like this boogeyman, right? It's the dragon that you need to slay. But America has this very term that you guys love to use, diverse, but I focus more on the cultural side, not necessarily in the skin tone, though some of those overlap. And for the most part, we get along peacefully. We get along even more peacefully if people were, as I've made the case before, allowed to, be around whatever people they want to be, instead of you guys forcing everybody to have to do this kumbaya stuff and then get mad when it becomes a situation where one group is upset with the other because culturally they are like antithetical. But like America as a whole is rather peaceful in that regard. And it's never highlighted, not never, but certainly by the guys who want to present themselves as the heroes, combating the white supremacists, especially right now. You look at groups, definitely post George Floyd, where everybody, for whatever reason, everybody that was doing this decided to, not only go against all the things they lecture you about, social distancing and all of that, but basically burn cities to the ground, burn businesses to the ground. Your politicians, they were all for it. The police that some of you conservatives worship, stood down and watched your stuff get burnt down to the ground. And they justify that and get in the way of people, really derail other people's livelihoods, which is already struggling because of the restrictions due to the virus. But you mess up people's livelihoods. You're burning down both small businesses, big and small, and they act as if they have to do that to fight this issue. Now, I'm a guy that you're not going to find anybody on the internet more anti-police brutality than I am, right? The anarcho-capitalist at the table. But I also can condemn that in concept while also understanding that people reach when it comes to the racism thing. But post George Floyd, you see all of these people going around city to city, burning stuff down, and you would think that that's an issue. That's a real life issue. It is, right? But for whatever reason, who are the people that folks are talking about right now? White supremacists. Trying to tie other people to white supremacists, Proud Boys or whoever, trying to tie them to white supremacists as they go burn everything down. And then those same blue check marks and the same, those general leftists will act as if that's not even happening, right? Perpetual protests that result in acts of violence, which include property damage, but they say, oh, it's just property, just insurance. And that's the type of stuff that they say. So you got people putting folks in harm's way, derailing other people's livelihoods, employees and owners, and they excuse it. And it's not even a point of emphasis to them. Well, because it's coming from them. So they say, well, white supremacists, white supremacists, white supremacists, white supremacists. Until y'all fools start knocking that crap down where it stands and don't even give in. This is why I don't get in denounce fest, right? Every like so often you get some crackhead who comes by and tries to call me a sympathizer or something like that. And I put the ball in their court and say, dog, y'all do whatever y'all want to with that, right? Burden of proof is always going to be on you. And there's no amount of things that I can say anyway to sway them, because they need me. They need you guys to be the worst thing that they can possibly think of. And it's not just limited to white supremacy. Like I said, you can put that and apply that to all isms and phobias and all types of nonsense that they throw out there to anybody that seems to deviate from their particular positions. But it's like they feel admirable, or they like to think of themselves as being admirable people. You gotta look at me. I'm one of the good guys. Dun, 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 dun. Because I'm in opposition to racism. Oh, wow. Congratulations. You're not a racist. Most of us aren't. Certainly not to the point to where you want to inflict violence or do something bad to someone by way of that. But the dragon they need to slay. It has to be there. And if it's not there, they have nothing to go on. So that if you're wondering, like, dang, why do they present the world in a way that it's not? Even though I go out, definitely you brothers like me, I've lived in the South my entire life, Arkansas, Texas, and I don't experience this like, it's not like it's a Klansman out to get me around every single corner, preventing me from being successful in that matter. Government is, though. And that's a problem. It don't matter if it's a black, white person or anything like that, that's in those positions of power. That's why I say focus on the power. I always say racism without statism is nothing more than a bad idea, because it's true. But they need that racism to be the worst thing ever that exists, in the sense that it's so prominent that it's just, you can't be successful. So they need that big dragon to be there. And I'm going to keep reiterating that, because I want you to understand how they operate. And as soon as y'all get in and y'all engage with them with these stupid conversations, that's what it is that they want. They want to drag you down into the mud. And now they have right now, for example, everybody talking about white supremacists. Trump could say he's not a white supremacist. He denounced it. He done all of this thing. All he can say all of that. What are they still asking? Do you denounce white supremacy? Again and again and again and again. There's a reason why. Because that's all they have to cling on. If that gets removed, if that threat that they're trying to conjure up gets removed, well, they can't present themselves as good people. They can't present themselves as heroes, as admirable, as good, as great. And they certainly can't present you as a bad person. So they need that to exist. So that's why they reach and they come up with those terms as sympathizers and stuff like that, because they need that to be there. Without it, they are nothing. They can't get power. They can't, again, present you as a bad person if they don't have that. If they don't have that, they have nothing. So think about that when you're conversing with these weirdos. And this is why when you bend the knee, it's the worst possible thing you can do, because it's going to make the problem worse long term. That's why you don't do it. It's a hard thing to do. I get it. Have people always reaching out to me in my, all my forms of social media, fellow creators, and they're like, man, I agree with all of what you're saying, man. You're right. But I can't say that because their careers and what have you. So they either are silent or they take the generic position because it's socially acceptable, definitely on the internet, which has its own kind of culture. When you're on some of the social media like Twitter, it's its own little thing, right? It's not even a representative of most of the world. That's kind of the point that I'm making. But don't give in to these foolish narratives, man. Call them stupid, which is what they are, and go about your business. Or again, put the ball in their court, put the burden of proof on them, and let them prove these nonsensical claims that they make about you. Force them to have to do that, because often they can. But they will reach, and when they reach, you just call them stupid, and then you're done with it. They need dragons to slay.